"You're useless as a manager. You're a regular employee starting today," John Smith Jr., the second-generation president, told my husband Thomas. Thomas has been working hard ever since the time of the previous president. I have seen all his efforts. How can I stay silent when my beloved Thomas is being treated so unfairly? My name is Nancy, a 48-year-old housewife who has been married to Thomas for 20 years. Thomas, my same-age spouse, is almost in his 50s but is still a dedicated salesman, selling construction tools primarily to businesses. Recently, with the rise of do-it-yourself enthusiasts, we have even started getting offers from companies we never dealt with before. Thomas always says he can sell because he truly believes in our products. His pride was once being the top salesman, though he stepped back a bit due to age, letting younger colleagues take the lead. He is still busy now, mostly with desk work as a sales manager. Sometimes he continues working at home. It looks tough, but I love seeing him so lively and enjoying his work. Even after 20 years of marriage, my love for Thomas is still fiery. I always greet him with a smile to lighten his load, making our home a peaceful haven. I too strive to do my best for Thomas. Lately, though, he seemed down, lost in thought, or sighing deeply. When I asked, "What's wrong?" he just looked distant and worried. I wondered if he was having an affair at his age, but then one day, Thomas quietly said, "Maybe I should quit my job." "What?" I asked. "Why?" It turns out he's not enjoying work anymore. The reason? A change in the company's direction since John Smith Jr. took over as president. The previous president was more laid back, letting us do our thing. He used to say, "Do what you like. The one who enjoys their work wins." That freedom is what made the employees thrive and boosted the company's performance. But John Smith Jr. seems different. He says there is no future for the company if you just do whatever you like under his dad. "Follow my orders and we'll definitely succeed," Thomas recounted about John Smith Jr. It seems John Smith Jr. is unsatisfied unless everything goes his way. In the end, he says it's because I'm old and out of touch that I give such sales directions. He told me to stick to desk work and handed over my longtime clients to the younger staff, even though those clients insisted on having me. He sighed again deeply. The company is completely different from what it was under the previous president. "Oh, I really want to quit." Thomas spoke these words. But quitting wasn't simple. His livelihood was at stake, and he was at an age where job changes aren't easy. Being a salaryman is tough. Facing a dejected Thomas, I found myself at a loss for words. Thomas wanted to quit but felt obliged to keep going because of the kindness shown by the previous president. But then something happened. Thomas came home much later than usual that day with no contact, making me worried. When he finally arrived late at night, I was speechless at the sight of him. His face was ashen, and he looked like he could collapse at any moment. "What happened?" I exclaimed. "John Smith Jr. made a mistake and caused a huge loss for the company," he said. "What?" I learned that the president himself had taken over a major deal from the sales department. He probably wanted to maintain his dignity as president by handling it personally, but he somehow caused a problem. He was demonstrating a new tool. "See it in action at a construction site," he said, and went into a big house being built. Then, while using the tool himself— "Wait, he used it himself, not the craftsman?" I asked. "He was showing how to use it, and somehow he destroyed a central pillar. How could that even happen?" I was shocked. "I wish I knew," he replied. "Construction had to start over, and our company had to compensate. The client was furious. We agreed to compensate, but the client's president was still furious. To appease him, we arranged a meeting, and then what? A drunk John Smith Jr. pulled off the client's president's hairpiece." "What? He pulled out the hair? Does that mean it was a hairpiece?" "Really, yes." "Calling him bald and all?" Thomas nodded, nearly in tears. Later, I went to apologize. "But that's the president's job. Why did you go?" "I had been dealing with them from the start. It was always my client." "Even if it was your client, the president took over, right? And he's the one who was rude. Why should you apologize?" "I agree, but the president said, 'It was your client, so you go.'" I had no choice. When I apologized, they just got angrier that the president didn't come. That's expected, I said. Eventually, the deal was called off. I see. And the president blamed me today, lecturing me for hours. Why? That makes no sense. Thomas's boss, John Smith Jr., was unbelievable. A lengthy lecture until late at night for his own mistake? Unthinkable. Incredible. Seeing Thomas so exhausted, my anger towards John Smith Jr. surged. It was heartbreaking to see Thomas so down. I gently placed my hand on Thomas's back. Thomas, it's okay to quit that company. We might earn less, but we can find something else. I'm here too. I only work part-time now, but I could go full-time. Thanks, but I keep thinking about the previous president. It's not the same company anymore, Thomas. You'll be crushed by it. Yeah, you're right. Thomas still seemed hesitant, but then an unavoidable situation arose. The former president, who had handed over the company to his son due to worsening chronic illness, passed away. Despite the care, he died in the hospital. Many employees, it seemed, cried at the funeral. Thomas must have wept too. When he returned from the funeral, his eyes were bloodshot, but his expression conveyed more despair than sadness. Apparently, there was a speech by the representative at the funeral. John Smith Jr., the son, declared, "A company with Dad's outdated ideas has no future. I've been under surveillance until now, but I'm going to do things my way from here on. The incompetent will be ruthlessly cut off, so be prepared." Everyone there probably thought, then you should be the one to leave. After all, the most useless and ineffective person in the company is John Smith Jr. This company might be finished, Thomas murmured, a prediction becoming reality. One day, Thomas came home and collapsed at the entrance, whispering, "It's over." I managed to get him to the living room and gave him some warm tea. After calming down a bit, he shared his story. "I've been demoted." What? Why? Thomas was the head of the sales department, the most experienced in the department. He had the most clients. Though John Smith Jr. had taken away his direct responsibilities, Thomas still advised and supported his subordinates. He would step in and ensure deals went smoothly. And now, a demotion? Demoted? You mean no longer a manager, like a section chief? No, it's worse than that. I've been made a regular employee. What? John Smith Jr. said, "Someone useless like you doesn't need a manager's title. You're just a regular employee from today." What? And he's cut my salary saying, "Be thankful you're even employed." That's outrageous. He keeps saying I'm no better than a guy with a hairpiece, that he with a full head of hair is more competent. It's all nonsense. He's still going on about the hairpiece? Ridiculous. Your hair is real, Thomas, and you have a full head of hair. I was even accused of having suspiciously too much hair. Thomas broke down in tears. What a fool saying such things to my husband. Let me tell you, even if Thomas's hair thins or falls out, my love for him will continue. Maybe it's you who's worried about your thinning hair, isn't it? Actually, I've been enduring constant snide remarks every day. I've reached my limit, Thomas said, sniffing. He explained that whenever he went to the office, the president would come up to him with commands like, "Must be nice for you just looking at a computer all day," or, "What's this client? This is a waste. Stop dealing with them immediately," or, "Can't even do that? You're useless." It seems he's prone to making such offensive remarks. That's definitely a problem, I exclaimed. It seemed like something worth suing over. If it's that frequent, why not record it? It sounds like evidence could be easily gathered. But Thomas slowly shook his head. Suing would be easy, but thinking about what happens afterwards, if the company were to fail, it would be a disservice to the former president and the other employees. They're all good people. The former president, despite having passed away, was still someone Thomas felt indebted to, and his colleagues with whom he had shared many ups and downs. Even with John Smith Jr.'s incompetence and tyranny, Thomas's concern for the company was exactly why I fell for him. But still, I couldn't contain my raging anger. Thomas leaving for work every day with a pale face, losing his appetite amidst constant sighs, no longer showing that lovely smile he once had. What could I do for him? These thoughts were running through my mind when I was looking at the newspaper. "Oh, isn't this... Hey, Thomas, This is the company next to yours, right? I called out to Thomas, who was sprawled listlessly on the sofa. Slowly sitting up, Thomas looked where I was pointing. The article featured a rival company located next to his, rapidly growing under the leadership of a young and talented president. The area where Thomas's company was located had numerous firms in the same industry, like a financial district. It might seem odd for rivals to be so close, but there were surely reasons beyond my understanding. The company, led by a young and dynamic president, appeared to be rapidly growing. The moment I searched for it on my mobile phone and saw it. Hey, Thomas, the company next door seems nice, doesn't it? Huh? Thomas looked puzzled, but I just smiled back at him. Thomas wrote a resignation letter. It wasn't a letter requesting to resign. If he asked to be let go, knowing that president, he might face harassment. That's why I suggested he simply announce his resignation. Thomas had prepared his handover documents perfectly, regardless of whether John Smith Jr. would look at them or not. John Smith Jr., upon seeing the resignation letter, apparently smirked nastily and said, "Oh, really? Finally, the incompetent one is leaving. That's a relief." If he truly believed Thomas was holding the company back, his judgment was indeed questionable. Months had passed since Thomas successfully switched jobs. Though initially reluctant, he gradually became more energetic, and it seemed like he was starting to enjoy his days. Seeing Thomas smile again made me happy too. One day, I noticed a particular expression on Thomas's face when he came home. "Did something happen?" I asked. "Oh, you can tell?" he replied. "Of course I can. We have been married for years. I can read your mood just by looking at your face." "Actually," he began, clearly in a good mood, "while I was at work, there was a sudden commotion. It turned out that John Smith Jr., my former company's blundering leader, stormed in red-faced and yelling, 'What have you guys done? It's strange that all my clients suddenly switched to you.' John Smith Jr. was furious when he saw me working there. 'What are you doing quitting my company and joining the one next door? We're in big trouble now. Come back and work for me.' How absurd. He's talking nonsense," I said. "Right? I followed the proper procedures to resign. He has no right to complain about where I work now," Thomas added. "Exactly. But John Smith Jr. wouldn't accept it. Since you left, our deals have been decreasing. When I asked why, they said your company is unreliable, that the quality has dropped. What's wrong with the products I planned and developed?" Honestly, everything was wrong with them. The products John Smith Jr. thought up lacked appeal and freshness. They were mere tweaks of old designs, despite his constant criticism of the former president's outdated ways. Moreover, they were shoddy due to skimping on materials. Everyone in the company opposed it, but he believed it would work, Thomas exclaimed. "Seriously? Even with unanimous opposition from his staff? Anyone, even someone inexperienced in business like me, would see that's a bad move," I said. "I thought it was strange that our orders were decreasing. Then the deals started getting canceled, and now they're all signing new contracts with your company. You must have used underhanded tactics to steal our clients," he accused, red-faced and shouting. "That's a false accusation. We just did our sales work properly, and our products appeal to them," Thomas replied. But John Smith Jr. wouldn't believe it. "Because of this, our sales have plummeted this quarter." "That's unfortunate," Thomas said. "What's with that indifferent attitude? You're still one of my employees." "No, I'm not. When I left, didn't you say it was good that the incompetent one was gone?" Thomas pointed out. John Smith Jr., unable to deny it, turned even redder and struggled to respond. That's when the president of Thomas's new company appeared. The young Ryan David, John Smith Jr.'s neighbor. "Is this the neighbor? What seems to be the problem?" he asked. You're the one who stole our clients." John Smith Jr. was about to pounce with furious energy, but the other employees held him back. Mr. David said, "Stolen is a harsh word. It's all thanks to our excellent sales manager who has dramatically increased our new contracts." "Sales manager?" John Smith Jr. glared, questioning who it was. Mr. David, with a smile, pointed to Thomas. "It's Thomas. He is incredibly competent. He studied our products even before joining, knows their strengths well, and his sincere sales approach has won everyone over. We have even managed to make deals in rare fields, which is greatly appreciated. Thomas? John Smith Jr. stuttered in disbelief. I hear Thomas was once the top salesman at your company. Even with his age, his skills are still active. He has a great eye for business and efficiently secures new deals. Thomas has become indispensable to our company. With him managing sales, our company's future is secure. David praised Thomas, leaving John Smith Jr. speechless. I've heard rumors, though, that your reputation is the worst, Mr. David added. What? John Smith Jr. tilted his head, confused. Rumors about you spouting offensive comments at a drinking party, making your subordinate apologize instead, and further angering the other party. Well, that was... John Smith Jr. stuttered. Recently, I've heard your sales tactics are almost threatening. Many decided to stop dealing with you and wanted to work with us instead. What? John Smith Jr. exclaimed in shock. And there's been a significant decline in your product quality. I heard you pushed for a product that all your employees opposed. If you don't listen to your employees, do you really need them? I'm the president. At that, Mr. David, who had been smiling, suddenly gave John Smith Jr. a stern look. Being a president isn't about throwing your weight around. Understand this. The president exists for the employees and the company, not the other way around. A president who doesn't respect the will of their employees is useless. He eventually left sheepishly. Later, Mr. David told Thomas, I'm really glad you joined us. Thank you. Thomas was moved to tears, and so was I when I heard the story. It's great for you, Thomas. It's all thanks to Nancy for suggesting I apply here. I'm just glad they were hiring mid-career. It would have been difficult for Thomas to switch to a different industry due to his age. That a competitor was hiring mid-career was lucky for Thomas, who had worked hard. A few days after John Smith Jr.'s intrusion, he appeared before Thomas again. Apparently, his company was in dire straits. Unbelievably, John Smith Jr. deeply apologized to Thomas. I was wrong. I'll prepare the position of sales manager again. Please come back. No one in their right mind would return to a failing company. What a lack of tact. Thomas declined without hesitation, leaving John Smith Jr. speechless. Is it okay for Dad's company to disappear? John Smith Jr. lamented. That's unfortunate, but I still remember the former president's words. Do what you like. The one who enjoys their work wins. I'm currently enjoying my work immensely. Though the company has changed, I want to continue to work hard, keeping those words in my heart and, of course, at my current company. Thomas spoke firmly. You, with your hairpiece. John Smith Jr. spat out a desperate insult as he left, but Thomas replied with an easy smile. This is my natural hair. Besides, John Smith Jr., shouldn't you be more concerned about yourself? It seems like your hair has thinned quite a bit due to stress. At that, John Smith Jr. was left speechless, his head hanging low. Afterwards, John Smith Jr.'s company lost more and more clients and quickly approached bankruptcy. With the business situation becoming dire, in a fit of despair, John Smith Jr. eventually sold the company he had inherited from the previous president. The buyer was none other than the company where Thomas now worked. Thomas, having been requested by the employees, played a role in this outcome. John Smith Jr., having sold the company, squandered the money on reckless spending and soon found himself penniless. His bad reputation spread, and it was clear he couldn't survive in the same industry. What he's doing to make a living now is anyone's guess. The good products from the time of the previous president, before John Smith Jr., were revived, and Thomas's former colleagues are now happily working again. That's great for you, I said. Yeah, I wonder if the previous president would be angry, Thomas pondered. Not at all. The legacy of the previous president will continue in some form or another. He would surely be pleased. I hope so, Thomas said, smiling as he left for work. I felt happy too. Well then, I should make Thomas's favorite dish for dinner tonight. To keep my beloved Thomas smiling, I'll keep doing my best.